All right, everybody, let's get into the hobby nonsense episode for the week. I don't know what episode this is. That's a good thing. We've been going on. I haven't given up on this so far, so that's a positive for all of you listening. I am in the midst of a little bit, I don't want to call it like in my feels. I think that's what a lot of people will say, or dudes will say when they're, feeling like a little touchy. But I will tell you this much. I have had, I don't know, a roller coaster of emotion with tech issues today. That is going to be plenty evident when we get to the interview portion of the show. Steve Charendoff, president of Rittenhouse Archives. He is the guy who's behind, basically, he started the company. He's behind all the big sets. So any of the early Marvel sets, and we talk about this a little bit in the show, but, people don't realize that Robert Downey Jr. has $5,000 plus autographs from Iron Man, the original set that came out from Rittenhouse back in like 2008 or something. Tobey Maguire has autographs from Spider-Man 3 and a few other. I don't know if he has autos in other movies from the other Spider-Man movies. I do know from Spider-Man 3, 2007, they made a set, and those go for I think the BGS 9.5 sold earlier this year for $3,500 plus or something like that. I actually have 2 boxes of that I've got one listed in a break right now. If you guys are into breaks and you're into trying to pull the Tobey Maguire, here's what I like too. And you know what? I'm not going to share too much of it, but what I am talking about here is tech issues. Oh, guys, let's just take a beat. Who cares? I'm not getting paid for this audit. This podcast is for you guys and for me. I don't have to give into the social norms of what everyone else is expecting. If I want to go off on a tangent, I'll go off on that tangent. Darn it. I wish I had someone in here to talk to about this. It's hard to get someone regular in here. I digress. Tech issues are apparent in the interview because I didn't actually record it in the Riverside software. What that means for you is, and what it means for my producer is going to have to do a lot of editing to hopefully make it sound not terrible. And I'm sure it won't be perfect. So thank you guys for bearing with. The interview is good. I will say the information is cool. It's cool to know how he got started with the company. It's cool to know how these IPs have turned into cards, which has turned into more of a mainstream thing as opposed to the niche part of the hobby. But anyways, you'll get into all that in the interview. I just kind of want to talk more about it. But that being said, let's talk more about what we will be talking about. Talk about what we're going to talk about. Jesse, what the heck is wrong with you? Shut up. This is what I'm talking about. I'm in my feels. Bear with me, okay? One of the reasons why I'm in my feels actually is because I have been inundated with clips, links to so many negative things going on in the hobby. And I don't know if it's just like a Monday, like case of the Mondays, people are just sending over all the garbage, or that's just what is popular and permeating social media, the social media side of the hobby. But I don't know. It's affecting me, I guess, to some degree. More fights at Costco. Canada has fist fights breaking out in the parking lot because somebody's getting product that somebody else isn't getting. There are instances where a Pokemon breaker, guess what platform he's on? Whatnot. You didn't have to guess. You probably already knew. They have apparently no kind of, I guess, process of determining who can break on their platform. I guess it's just so upsetting to see there are people just openly doing drugs. This guy that Rattle, who was a Pokemon content creator, he was showing this video where a guy's crushing up pills and snorting them. There's even a pill bottle in one of the videos at one point. He hits his kid. Hitting and spanking is it's such a weird thing. And some people spanking is, I grew up getting spanked, and to some degree it's okay, I can understand there's a spanking thing, but spanking shouldn't also be taking out aggression on a child either. And that's what that looked like in that video. It didn't look like a spank though. It looked like a hit. If I had to guess, especially it doesn't matter if you're on drugs and you're striking out at a child, whether it's just for, a teaching moment or anything else, it's a hit. because you're not in your right mind. I don't believe you're in your right mind to be able to choose that. So anyways, seeing that kind of thing is just disturbing. I think I watched that maybe a few minutes before getting into the pod today, and it's still in the back of my head. You've got other people doing shady things across the hobby, and I come to you now with an apology because I'm realizing I've been nothing but negative since I started this. We're 5 minutes in and some change, and I need to change up my attitude. Let's do that. Let's do a little. That's a rewind sound. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Hobby Nonsense Podcast, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. You know why? Because there's another Cheeto up for auction. That's right, Michael Jordan shaped Cheetos. This is not a joke. Michael Jordan, this is an Air Jordan hot Cheeto that is up for auction on Goldin right now. This Cheeto is currently on bids. People are bidding for it with the buyer's premium. It is right around $7,000. It's a Cheeto. I thought this was a joke. I saw this and I thought it was a joke. I thought like Lameme James, the social media account, had posted this, and I thought he was just making fun of other people doing it. No, it's real because of the Cheetozard Cheeto that did $80-something thousand. It's not even the person who listed the Cheetozard on bids. It's the person that spent $80,000 on that Cheeto that we have to blame for this. Because if now a flaming hot Air Jordan Jumpman Cheeto is selling for, it has 30 bids and it's at $7,000. What's the world we're living in? And why do people have so much money? Why do people have so much money? There is no way they think like, oh yeah, that's going up in value. I'm holding that one for the grandkids. It'll disintegrate. Well, actually, the way modern foods are made, it probably won't. But still, it's just crazy to me. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. I'm over here bidding on cards, and so admittedly, maybe I'm part of the problem, but I don't think so, because I'm bidding on things like my max bid is like $50 in some cases. I'm not bidding on things that it doesn't matter. We're Positive Town. Remember, guys, we're in Positive Town, or is it Positiveville? I want to say Positive Borough. That's it. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. I thought you guys would appreciate it. There's another piece of news that is going around. Before we get to our interview, I wanted to talk about this. So I don't know if this is something that is just, it kind of makes its rounds every once in a while. This is not new news, but it's definitely getting a lot of play. And it looks like the amount of attention it's getting is having a positive effect, especially because most people do not like what's happening. So Pokemon sales in America are mainly done by a company called MJ Holdings. Now, MJ Holdings is the one who sells to Walmart, Target, the big box stores, and they're getting that product, I believe, directly from Pokemon, the people who make the cards. Now, when they're selling it at MSRP, whatever the normal pricing, the agreed upon pricing would be. But what we've noticed lately, I think many of us have noticed, is that there seems to be less product out there, less on the shelves at these big box stores, less at our local card shops. People just can't get their hands on it. And yet what we're seeing is people like MJ Holdings doing something less than quality customer appreciation. They have another company out there. It's called GT Collectibles. GT Collectibles has been selling Pokemon product for about 3x what you would normally find it at Target or Walmart. And it just so happens that GT Collectibles and MJ Holdings have the same address. That's how they got found out to be the same company. It is not being looked upon very favorably by their customer base. Let's just say it is going around like the most savage form of wildfire on social media. Everybody and their mom have sent me a link to it is never even the same link. It's always links to someone else's content. So I'm sure by the time you're hearing this, you've probably heard a little bit about it. Maybe not. Maybe this is the first opportunity. But bottom line is this right? Is it right that the distributor of the product, I believe the sole distributor in the US, or at least the very least the main Pokemon distributor in the US, is it right that they are taking what should be going onto shelves to sell to, the kids, the collectors at normal, affordable pricing, or at least some semi-affordable pricing, and then jacking up the price to sell it online for themselves? I just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem fair, and it doesn't seem right. So I wanted to mention it because I believe there's something that's being done. I went to Walmart's MJ Holdings page, and there's nothing there. There's no store that could be found. GT Collectibles, actually, you know what? At the time of recording before this, I don't know if it did still have that store up. Actually, I'm going to look it up right now, and we'll see. Okay, and we're back. So let's go ahead and make a little correction. I don't know if anything's being done because GT Collectibles is still open and available on Walmart's website. They don't have the MJ Holdings page, but maybe it's just that they never really did have anything under MJ Holdings on the Walmart page. The bigger issue here is that the GT Collectibles is what is still existing, because that's the one that they're selling the jacked up product under. So should that exist? Am I the only one who thinks that's wrong? I know I'm not the only one, because there's several people who have commented the same thing. But I guess maybe there's a case to be made, like, oh, well, they have the product and they can resell it for what? No, you know what? No, I'm not even playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying, no, not allowed. I'm just going to call it. All right, there's that story is done. You now know, if you didn't before, MJ Holdings is GT Collectibles. They are taking product, they're selling it for 3 times what they should be, because they could be selling it to Walmart, Target, all the places where you go to get it typically, but you can't find it. And that's maybe because they're hoarding it to sell for themselves. The next thing is just a little call out. There's a little call out to Topps. I sent this actually to one of the members of Topps. I don't want to mention who, because they never responded, so I don't know if they're just not happy about it. But it's just something, as someone who is a proponent of the non-sport, the entertainment side of things on the hobby, I've noticed this, and I just don't care for it, and I want it to maybe be adjusted a little bit. If nothing, just give us a little attention. That's what I'm asking for. Is a little bit of notice, a little attention out there, because if you go to Topps website, Topps in the US is making all of these products, these non-sport products, right? They've got Genesis that just started hitting people's hands. The ones who were actually able to get through on the website and buy it back in January. There's a little bitterness there. The site crashed. There was a lot of issues. I couldn't get the stuff that was in my cart, and by the time the site worked again, it was gone. So yeah, there's some issues. Some people did get it though. Some people have it in hand. Somehow a lot of breakers have a lot of it. And granted, there are people that bought it on eBay. People were selling it on there for 5x, but granted, now it's being sold for 8x, because I think it's sold at $100 a box, and it's being sold for $800 a box right now. So that's one product though. So Genesis is out now. There's multiple Star Wars. They now have the X-Men product, and they've had other products before, and there are more to come. But if you look at the social media sites, and I'm picking on Instagram specifically because it was the easiest to go through. Since January 1, last week I did these numbers. January 1, there had been a little over 300 posts on the Topps Instagram account. Of those 300 posts, only 5 of them had anything to do with any of their non-sport cards. And only one of those 5 had anything to do with a product that had even come out in this year. I'm just saying, they're putting forth the effort to make these products. I want there to be demand for those products. I don't want it to fall by the wayside because no one even knew about it. Oftentimes in the non-sports cards nonsense Facebook group, the one that has 50,000 members, I'll post up some hits from a break, or somebody else will post up from a personal box that they had. And people are like, what is this product? Where? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, I love X-Men. What is this product? I'm like, this is the X-Men 97 release that just came out. It's like huge right now. But apparently it's not huge if you're not in the know already, right? So the people that are not, active viewers of card content, which I'm going to say is a large number of not large majority of the non-sport collectors out there, they are probably only, if anything, following, like, say, the Topps main account. Well, if the Topps main account isn't even showing anything about their own releases, especially in this side of the hobby, then how are they supposed to know as much about them? Granted, they could do a little research, whatever, but I'm just thinking from a marketing, from an advertising point of view, it seems like a waste. I just want to throw that out there. Maybe I know one of the main guys who runs some of their social media, very nice guy. In fact, I believe a lot of you probably know who he was. He's the guy who used to run the Eric Whiteback channel. Very nice guy. I just, maybe he hears this and runs with it and starts throwing up a little bit more content around it. So, and I say that too, knowing that I was one of the featured ones, not this year, but like in November or something last year when I pulled the 1 of 1 Winnie the Pooh from the Disney, the UK Topps product. I was on there. I thought that was awesome. Thought it was really cool to be featured. I don't know. I want to see more of it. And I want to see other people knowing that they have these products out there so that they can go out and appreciate them like we do. Okay. I've done a lot of rambling, ranting. I'm sure a lot of you have probably noticed that his brain don't seem to work too good today. That's fair. That's a fair criticism of what you're hearing now. Let's go ahead and jump into our interview. This again is with Steve Charendoff, our president of Rittenhouse Archives. All right. It is our interview with Steve Charendoff. Steve, you are the president and owner of Rittenhouse Archives. Is that all right?
That is correct.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about, first off, how did you start Rittenhouse? How did this get started?
Oh boy. This may take some time, but I'll try to make it quick. So I had been working for Fleer Skybox prior to starting Rittenhouse. And at the time, Fleer was getting out of the entertainment card business, focusing mostly on sports. And I decided to leave to start my own company with an emphasis on sports. And I had a relationship with several of the licensing companies, particularly for Star Trek. And so I left and I started Rittenhouse. That was back in 1999. Star Trek and Twilight Zone were the first two properties or franchises that we worked with. And we were off and running.
So, and I think you may have meant, I think you said you left with an emphasis to start a company with an emphasis on sports, but you meant entertainment, right?
I meant that Fleer's emphasis was moving away from entertainment, focusing on sports. And I had been doing entertainment at Fleer. So they were phasing that part of the business out. So it was easy for me to leave and eventually pick up the Star Trek business and pick up the Twilight Zone and pick up other franchises as the company grew and moved forward.
Now it's not common, obviously, right, to see a card company go out with the emphasis on entertainment cards. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, is because as someone who covers a lot of the non-sports side of trading cards, there's not many companies out there that I can point to and say they are solely focused on that side of the hobby. And so to have someone like yourself, I am very interested to know, like, what caused you to want to focus on entertainment?
Well, breaking into the sports card business is clearly more challenging because you have, historically, you've had, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini. There have been other companies mixed in there along the way since 1999. But I mean, it's been challenging in many instances to get a sports card license because a lot of those deals are done exclusively. And right now, obviously, Topps has several sports under exclusive contract, and Upper Deck has the monopoly more or less on hockey. The great thing about entertainment is that there are always new franchises to work with. There's is in sports. There's not going to be another NFL, not likely anyway, that comes around. Certainly not on an annual basis or any frequency. There's not going to be a new sport that suddenly becomes so substantial like that. Whereas in entertainment, there's always new television shows, there's always new movies, there's always new comic franchises. So there was really a wide open playing field there. And the other part of it, quite honestly, is that moving from, or rather joining Fleer when I did, and focusing on entertainment there, I got to develop relationships with a lot of talent agencies, and having worked in sports as well, I sort of knew what the challenges were in both areas, dealing with athletes versus actors, let's say.
Sure.
And for the most part, athletes are a bit of a challenge. I mean, quite honestly, a lot of them they got big egos, they got big expectations. They've been told how great they are since they started playing sports at a young age, and they've been inundated with requests for autographs. Whereas when I started Rittenhouse, most of the actors that we worked with had really not done much of that. It was very rare that anyone had, certainly in terms of trading cards and even conventions, it wasn't that frequent that even a high profile actor was being asked to sign many things. So that made things a little bit easier for us. And the other part of dealing with the acting community is that most of them have had some struggles in their careers. So they come from more humble beginnings on average. It's not always true, but it's mostly true. So, when I'm approaching an actor who is part of one of our projects, it's just a little easier because I think there's more of an appreciation for, hey, someone is asking me to sign trading cards. That's cool. Or maybe they were a card collector when they were a kid. And the idea, I've run into this situation many times where an actor says to me, "Oh, you want me to sign cards? I'm going to be on a baseball card," even though it's not really a baseball card per se. It's a Star Trek card, or it's a Marvel card, or James Bond, or what have you. But it reduces, a lot of these people to being like 12 years old again. And that's really cool because, our business is about making collectors happy. Fundamentally, that's what this comes down to. We make people happy. They want to buy cards because it makes them happy. It's not food, it's not clothing, it's not, not the necessities of life. It's a fun thing. But on the other side of it, you've got the actors who participate in these projects who also think it's fun and cool and it makes them happy to be part of it. And, for the most part, we're the only ones who are not only making the cards for these franchises, we may be the only company that wants to make the cards for these franchises.
Now, let me ask you, Steve, because I know what you're saying right there. That absolutely was the case, but that has changed, has it not? In the last, say, 3-4 years, like since the pandemic, since we've seen more of the fanatics takeover of a large portion of the hobby, we see the Disney Marvel licensing getting grabbed up by other companies. We see Upper Deck with their DC licensing, and now we're seeing boxes that used to be maybe under $100 where you could get an autograph of, say, one of the James Bond characters or Captain Picard or even maybe a Spider-Man character. And now they're going for multiple hundreds, if not more, to get to some of these autos. So obviously, I would assume these are not as easy to come by these days.
Well, it depends on the franchise that you're talking about. So there's sort of like I guess, a stratified, tiered system in my mind, the way I view it of these franchises. So at the very top, you've got Star Wars. I mean, there's nothing bigger than Star Wars. And then below that, you've got very close to it, I suppose you could say, is Marvel. Um, After that, there is DC Comics, but that's had sort of a mixed history of success, depending on which company has had the license to produce those cards, and the movies and the TV shows have been not as generally as prolific or as successful, let's say, as a lot of the Marvel TV shows and movies. That's just a fact. It's not a value judgment. I just call it as I see it. And um, but once you get beyond that, those franchises can generate very, very significant amounts of money for the companies that make those cards. There's more mass market opportunities for those franchises. When you get into some of the more, what I would call more niche franchises, and maybe that's a little bit misleading because, like Star Trek, which has been a mainstay for us, isn't anywhere close to the size and the scope of, say, Star Wars or Marvel. Even though there's a lot of material to work with in the realm of Star Trek. I've lost track of how many different TV shows and movies there have been over the past nearly 60 years. So the size and the scale of it all, I think for those companies like Topps and Upper Deck and Panini, perhaps, I think a lot of these other properties or franchises don't rise to that level where they can generate enough volume of product that makes it worth their while. And I saw that, quite honestly, when I was at Fleer back in the 90s. And I don't think much has changed since then as far as this particular issue goes. So there were projects, Twilight Zone was one of them, quite honestly, where I wanted to make Twilight Zone cards as part of our entertainment product line at Fleer. And the powers that be just refused to move it forward because they felt like it wasn't going to generate enough volume, even though it would have been profitable. And it turned out to be very profitable and very successful for me as owner of Rittenhouse. But for those companies, it's not substantial enough.
What were some of the non-sport or entertainment cards that Fleer put out? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, in the 90s, we really revolutionized the whole category, starting with Marvel. That's when Marvel Masterpieces was introduced, and Marvel Metal, and the Hildebrandt art.
Skybox Fleer. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, it's Skybox and Fleer to me are sort of interchangeable.
Yeah. No. That makes sense.
In fact, we when I started in 1994, it was just Fleer at that time. In 95, we bought Skybox. That's a whole other story that's kind of fascinating, actually, but a little off topic perhaps for today. We could talk about it maybe another time, but that was an interesting acquisition. And so at that point, we kind of owned other than Topps having Star Wars, we kind of owned the entertainment category at that point. Because we had Disney, we had Marvel, we had Star Trek, we had DC Comics, we had pretty much all the other franchises, but for Star Wars.
I'm curious too. So going forward, like I see this year, and I've already seen the Cheers product that you guys put out from the TV show has done rather well. I think, at least I hope it has. I've seen a lot of guys who are very happy about it. And in years past, there was a number of products that Rittenhouse was able to get licensing for, and it was like affordable, right? Like, because at the end of the day, while we're collectors, and when I'm sure you want to make products that you love and that you want to collect, there's probably a money component that comes into play where can it actually make money? Can it be affordable? And you're not going to lose money because these licensing keeps getting more and more expensive. So like, for instance, I'm doing like a Marvel, a Spider-Man break, a Spider-Man 3 with the Rittenhouse 2007 product. And we're going after those Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe autos, and I just imagine like that cannot be easy to get something like that today.
Well, to get the licensing for Marvel is tough at this point, and we had it for a while. We made, as you know, that product obviously is that you mentioned was ours, along with many others. But at that point when we had Marvel, especially towards the beginning of our time making Marvel cards, Upper Deck actually had the license. This is a little bit of inside baseball here. Um, Upper Deck had the license. They weren't doing anything with it. They were making collectible card games, but they weren't making traditional trading cards with autographs and relic cards and those sorts of things that we're known for. And we went to them and said, "Hey, you guys aren't utilizing this to its fullest. We could do something with it. Why don't we work together?" And we did. So the very first Marvel cards that we made were under that agreement with Upper Deck. So we made, I think that Spider-Man product that you mentioned was part of that at the time. So you'll see that, if I'm correct, you'll see the Upper Deck logo along with the legal lines on the backs of those boxes, packs, and cards. Um, but anyway, they still didn't really embrace it at all, and we ended up getting the license directly. They gave it up. We ended up making Marvel cards on an exclusive basis without even having an exclusive license. So it wasn't like other companies were, beating down the door to get that at the time. I think, not to toot our own horn here, but I think the success that we had with the Marvel cards demonstrated to the rest of the marketplace, hey, there's something here. We had so much success with it, and we did some innovative things that other companies hadn't done before, and that were really well received by collectors. So it kind of changed the market a little bit in a good way, and then Upper Deck got more interested in getting back into it, and then they ended up getting the rights themselves exclusively, and they've had it since. So, that happens. That's fine. But, just to get back to the point that you were making originally or earlier, there are so many franchises in the entertainment realm. So, so to lose the Marvel franchise, while that, it wasn't a happy day, certainly, there's so many other properties out there that were available to take advantage of, and we've always replaced anything that we move on from, whether it's under those circumstances or just purely by our own choice.
Well, I think that's one of the things one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because I don't think people fully appreciate just what you guys started, because you go out and you look at, especially, Marvel cards, there's some that are selling for $50,000, and in even more recent product releases. And you guys had some of the first ones, especially when it comes to like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, getting the actual stars of these movies to sign for these cards. Like, I'm sure people probably are aware, but not everyone that, the Tony Stark, Iron Man product that you guys put out in 2008, like the Robert Downey Jr. honor auto on those, excuse me. The Robert Downey Jr. auto goes for around $45,000 to $5,000.
Oh, I think you're lowballing it there.
Well, yeah, that's like a recent sale, but it's definitely gone higher, and that's for a lower grade. That's a PSA 8 even. But then you've got like some Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke autos that just sold this year for over $2,000. There was one earlier this year, that Tobey Maguire one I mentioned, as a BGS 9.5 did, I think, around 3,500 or so. I mean, there's some serious money on these autographs where I don't think people really appreciate that. Oh, that was Rittenhouse that came out with these cards that initially made this category of the market more favorably looked upon.
Yeah. It's great to see. We love to see those cards that we've produced generate that kind of activity, interest, demand, what have you. The one thing I will say is that it is a bit of a sore topic when it comes to those those cards is sometimes the grading companies don't always put Rittenhouse on the label. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll just say like 2007 Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire autograph, and they just leave Rittenhouse off of the label. So, I definitely appreciate it when they do put the Rittenhouse name on the label, because it is our cards. And in some cases, like with Robert Downey Jr., those were the first. They may be the only ones ever that he signed, certainly on card. So we'll see. I view those cards in particular with a great deal of fondness. The Downey Jr. cards, just because it was such a special time. That first Iron Man movie, that really kicked off what's become the Marvel Cinematic Universe in any meaningful way. And of course, in my view, he's sort of at the center of it all. He'll always be sort of that focal. He's sort of the Mickey Mantle, if you will, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, and they're bringing him back to the cinematic universe too. They've got plans for him to come back as another character and things like that. So
yeah, that's the beauty of entertainment. You can do lots of things like that.
Well, and the looking over like some of the cards that you guys have put out over the years, it does make me, not only nostalgic for some of them, but it makes me curious because you go out and try and find a box of some of this stuff. It is very difficult to find, and it is typically very high priced these days. I'm curious, do you ever keep boxes yourself? Do you like hold on to one of each product, or like anything where there's like a storage locker filled with like old autos from these products?
I wish. I keep some things just for posterity, but there's no Indiana Jones warehouse full of Rittenhouse products sitting around someplace for somebody to find, or for my kids to sell off after I'm gone.
Man, that's a shame. Yeah, it's one of those where I think you just gotta you card shows and online sales, you just kind of have to search around, because to know that some of these are out there and the limited quantities is pretty, I don't know. I think it's really cool, and it's a underappreciated thing about Rittenhouse. I have a weird question for you. Why is the Rittenhouse website sci-fi-hobby.com?
That's a good question. When I started the company, it occurred to me, even though I love the name Rittenhouse Archives Limited, which came from the fact that I lived on Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia, and always loved that neighborhood. It didn't seem like a great name for a website. A little too long and maybe a little challenging to spell, and didn't necessarily speak to what we were doing at the time. And having said that, when I started the business and gave it the name that I did, Rittenhouse Archives, I didn't think that we would exclusively or primarily be focused so much on entertainment trading cards. I thought that we might have gotten into more categories of products, maybe gotten into more sports as well. Not necessarily with trading cards, but just in general as a hobby-oriented company. And we did some of that over the years, but when we needed to create the website, we were doing primarily science fiction related trading cards, and sci-fi-hobby.com was available. It seemed easy to remember. It rolls off the tongue, and it stuck.
Okay. Well, and that's, it really has nothing to do with anything other than when I'm like trying to find Rittenhouse cards and I find sci-fi hobby, I'm like, oh, is this Rittenhouse? Is this Rittenhouse Archives? Cause it's sci-fi hobby. And it's my simpleton brain that was just curious about why that was, but
no, it's a fair point. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have just named the company maybe Sci-Fi Hobby.
That's fair.
And then you wouldn't have had that issue. You could Google it and it would all come up, and it would all seem very logical and obvious.
Well, I'm sure no one really cares other than me and that one question I have. But
That's fair.
I am curious 2025, I look at like the release product timeline, and of course we just have that so far, but anything else that we can look forward to in the coming future?
Well, we are working on the Hunger Games.
Oh, nice.
It's
Like
an interesting
the
one.
new movie or like the older ones as well?
Well, all of it.
Oh, cool.
I don't know that we're going to put all of it into one giant product, but
Oh,
we're probably going to break it down into some component parts. We'll see. We haven't really gotten too far along with it, but it's certainly on the calendar. I'm not looking at our website right now, so you probably have me at a bit of a disadvantage as to what actually has been posted. Maybe we actually did say that Hunger Games was coming at some point.
I'm looking at the upcoming product release page, and I do not see. I'm not seeing. Oh, actually, no, I do. I see the Hunger Games Premiere Edition, TBD. So you don't have a date on it yet.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. We're still working through that.
A Jennifer Lawrence auto, or who is it? The brother of Thor. Dang it, Liam
Hemsworth.
Liam Hemsworth. That'd be pretty cool to get some autos of them in there.
Well, fingers crossed. Let's see.
But I see that you got some more Star Trek coming out, Strange New World. Foundations, that's that Apple Plus TV show. I actually like that. I've watched the first couple seasons of that. You got those coming out here. And then Twin Peaks, more Game of Thrones, and some Star Trek. Anything like ultimate wishes that you could get, like some, I guess, a show or a movie that you would like to make cards of?
Oh, lots of things. The challenge with this category is often that the TV shows or movies that we would most love to do that have never been done before may not be available for a licensing. So that can be, a frustration for not only us but collectors out there, because we have lots of people who follow our products and say, oh, well, you should make trading cards for Seinfeld. Yeah, we'd love to do that, but it's not necessarily available to us at this moment, and may never be. Who knows? But so there's not always an obvious path to making some of these products that we'd love to make. I mean, just, for me personally, like when I started in 1999, I thought, boy, I'd love to make like the ultimate 1960s Batman trading card set. And we had the relationship with DC Comics for a period of time, but they just wouldn't go there. And we had Adam West sign trading cards for us for the Outer Limits. This is 20 years ago or so, when he was still alive. And I thought, well, if I can't get Adam West to sign for Batman, I'll get him to sign for the Outer Limits. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, just as a little piece of trivia here, I think that's the only on-card autograph, the only official autograph card that he ever signed. So that was kind of a neat thing.
Oh, wow.
But
that is pretty cool.
There's lots of stuff from my childhood that I would have loved to have done. I still love to do. It doesn't always have to be the most profitable project. Sometimes, look, as owner of the company, sometimes I get to just, pick a project that is just purely for fun. I'm not going to lose money on it. I'm not in that frame of mind, but if I can have fun with a project, especially something that resonates with me from childhood, and probably if it resonates with me from childhood, it probably resonates with a lot of other people too. So, and look, I grew up a collector. I'm a fan of almost all of the franchises that we've ever made trading cards for. Sometimes, most of the time before we make those cards, sometimes during the process of making those cards, I become a bigger fan. So it's fun, we're like kids in a candy store.
Well, I can tell that you enjoy what you do. I'm honestly jealous, because to be able to be on the end of creation of these, like from start to finish, is I don't know. I've always wanted to be a part of like the idea room and throw around some of these, but yeah, I'm going through what you guys have done historically speaking, and it is very impressive. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on and talk to us a little bit more about how the company got started and some of these non-sport entertainment cards that you guys made and people don't really appreciate. They don't know that they exist. So I was happy to bring a little more attention to it as well.
I do appreciate that. It's a challenge as a small company. We're often um, not top of mind. So I do appreciate the fact that, and especially with, like we were talking about with the old Iron Man cards and the Spider-Man cards and a lot of the Star Trek that we've done. We were the very first licensee, not just trading cards, but we were the very first licensee for Game of Thrones, which, obviously has been a big deal. Um,
Yeah,
we've
that's
made a
huge.
lot of Marvel cards over the years. Our James Bond cards, continue to be, hugely collectible. I mean, it's unbelievable to me how many people continue to contact us asking about our James Bond cards with questions about old products and questions potentially about newer products. But we've done a lot, and I do appreciate people like yourself shedding a little bit of a spotlight on what we've done.
Well, I'm hoping that more people will learn about not only what you guys have done, but be fans of the new products that you guys put out as well. If anybody is curious, you already know the website because I asked about it, sci-fi hobby.com. You can go out and check out what they're releasing, their schedule, and you can check out some of the former releases. They keep a pretty good checklist of what was in those products as well, including I appreciate it too because I was like I mentioned, I'm doing like a Spider-Man 3 break. I've got a couple boxes of it. I'm just selling packs, hoping to pull the Toby Maguire, but we'd be okay with a Willem Dafoe or J.K. Simmons or Elizabeth Banks, something like that. But the fact that you've got on there just like the quantities of them in those products, and then you also have listed on those boxes how many boxes you made. There were 7,000 of them, and this is my boxes have a number out of 7,000. And so you can actually get odds of like, what are the odds of me actually pulling a Toby Maguire auto, which in fact, it's actually not even that bad. I think it was like, we did the math. It was like, there's like a 1 in 700 chance or something, or 1 in 350, something like that, of pulling an auto of his out of one of these boxes. And it's like, it's only because you guys list that kind of detail in checklists that, we are able to guess and know things like that. And as a hobbyist and someone who collects, that's rare because the tops and paninis of the world, they don't really put out that fine of detail. So appreciate what you guys do.
No, thank you for saying that. Let me just add one other point about that. We when we made those products, and when we make any product, we try very hard not to make even the best autographs too scarce. We want the common man, so to speak, the average collector to have a fighting chance. We try not to have needle in a haystack type cards, even for the highest profile people who are involved. But the other thing is that all of the autographs that we put on those cards are on card. So we're not like throwing a sheet of stickers in front of Toby Maguire, say, sign this, and then we'll figure out what cards to put them on at some later date. So with very rare exception, and usually is for someone who's deceased, that we'll get cut signatures for pretty much every autograph card that we've ever issued. And there are many thousands of different cards that have been signed for us over the years. They're all on card.
That's so cool. Yeah, and it is really cool to see like there's shows and movies that I think people wouldn't even realize, to think that are out there. I was just going through some of them. Like you've got Jag, you've got Stargate. There's like you mentioned, Outer Limits, but you've also got like Hercules, the movie expansion sets. You've got, but those are like some more like obscure ones, I would think. But then you've got, of course, some of the more recent Hulk movies. You've got Star Trek Nemesis, one of the more recent or the last Picard movie that they came out with. and a number of others to go along with that. So I don't know. I just like that there's a wide range, but it's like you said, they're all on card autos, and they're cards that a lot of guys grew up with, or shows that a lot of guys grew up with, or movies that they grew up with. So there's demand out there. Maybe there wasn't as much then, but there's definitely a lot of it now.
Well, over the course of our 26 plus year history now, if we didn't exist, if Rittenhouse hadn't been in existence, I don't think a lot of those products would ever have been made by any company. We just saw an opportunity to fill a void in this niche within entertainment. A lot of the production runs are not large for these kinds of products by comparison to what you'd see coming from Topps or Upper Deck or Panini. So we know that there are hardcore fans of these franchises. They may not be, in the numbers, the sheer quantities of fans of some of the more well-established franchises like we've talked about, Star Wars, Marvel, so forth. But they exist, and we've been able to successfully make products for those titles and for those collectors. And it's really been fun and gratifying because we do connect with a lot of collectors on a personal level. I'm very accessible to a lot of people. It's not hard to find a way to connect with me either through direct email or on our website forum. I try to be, and I go to shows periodically and I meet and greet people. So, the passion that our collectors bring to this, it's years ago, it's a little less true today than maybe it used to be, but it's mostly still true that the dichotomy between sports card collectors and entertainment card collectors, the way we used to think of it and still do, is that sports card collectors are in it for the price guide value of the cards, whereas entertainment card collectors are in it for the love of the TV show or the movie or the comic or whatever it might be. Now, there's still a financial component for most collectors on some level. They like to, obviously, everyone likes to feel that the cards that they get out of their packs are valuable in some way. But, by and large, the majority of people who buy our products, they want to build a master set, or at least a mini master set. And they want to get the album, and they want to put those cards in the album and put it on their bookshelf and enjoy it and be able to refer back to it and look at it, and have fun with it. It's not about, I got, 8 cards out of a pack and there's one like rare thing that has some value and I'm going to chuck the rest of the cards. That's not the mentality of the people that we cater to. So, cool. I love the fact that when I interact with people and they tell me that, hey, I love the Cheers cards because, the Norm quote cards, it just brings me back, 30 years or 40 years to when, I first saw that episode and saw that moment. And I just have fun with it. That's what really is gratifying to me. It's great that we have a business and we can make money and a living doing this, but I wouldn't do it if I couldn't make people happy with what we're producing. It's just, if it was just purely about dollars and cents, I would have gone off and been an investment banker or something else. So I get a huge thrill out of making people happy.
That's well said, Steve, and we appreciate what you do and will continue to do. So thank you very much. Steve Charendoff, president of Rittenhouse Archives Limited. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Sure. Be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There is your interview with Steve. Steve's a really nice guy. I think, again, I will admit that if I'd actually hit the record button, the audio would have been a lot crisper. We would have some video to go along with that. There's no video on his side because I didn't have that record button in. All that being the case, did you guys know about all those releases? Did you guys know about what Rittenhouse has done, what they're doing now, that the popularity of some of it. Because I know like the casual entertainment fan, the casual listener of this podcast, other podcasts would probably not be as familiar with the fact that they've got like the NCIS, trading card pack where they've got like multiple signers from that show, or the fact that they do have like a lot of Marvel, like early Marvel that sells really well. Some of those early Marvel movies, even the X-Men movies, like X-Men Origins. I think X-Men Origins has, in fact, I just pulled it up here. Let me see. Yeah, it does have Hugh Jackman on card autos in there, along with Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson. They go for money too. I mean, I don't like to always associate the money side of it, but it is still good to know that if you're going to invest your money into it, not only will you have a nice piece, but it will hopefully hold up value wise as well. The number of other things they've got, you'll just have to go through and see that it's really nice. This is one of the things I also like about Rittenhouse, and I wish it was more easily accessible on some other card makers websites. Is you can go and under products, it just shows current products, and it'll show past products. And under past products, it has each year all the products that they came out with, and you can click on it, and then it shows you what the checklist was for those. And not only checklist, it shows in a lot of cases a picture of the card. How amazing is that? That seemed like, why is that not a thing for everybody? I don't know why this company can do that, and ones that are hundreds of millions of dollars wealthier don't do that. So just another thought from Jesse's thought brain box place. Ooh, all right. Well, whatever episode this was, it may be the last. Sports cards nonsense. This isn't even sports cards nonsense. This is hobby nonsense, for goodness sakes. Oh, this is what happens when technical issues get stuck in the brain and I cannot fix them. So I apologize. Next episode, I'm sure I will have fixed everything in this office. But until then, this is your boy, Sports Boy, signing off for the Hobby Nonsense podcast. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your week. We'll see you soon.